And welcome to a surprise edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. Kevin Mooney here with you alongside Jason Hamo. Hey, Jason.
Hello there, Kevin. How are you?
I am great. Yourself?
Doing great.
Doing great. Chris Staglis is on assignment, so he will rejoin us in the very near future. But this is so typically, we have a blog this week. We did have a blog, and normally our podcast would be next week, but we're going to have a special one, and you'll see why in a moment. So it's our pleasure to welcome in the head coach of the SUNY Oswego men's ice hockey team. It's Ed Gosek. Hey, coach.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me on again. I know a big night in the sports world with the final NCAA game. So hopefully I won't, I don't know when you play this, but I'm sure when people hear it, they'll already know who the winner is.
You would be
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is Monday evening. So, yep, I know they're about to tip off any moment now for that NCAA men's championship basketball game. But coach, so let's look at the season in review for the Oswego Lakers. So, your roster had 17 freshmen and won the SUNYAC title with a memorable 5-2 win over Plattsburgh at home, and felt trying in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. What's your take on how the 24-25 season panned out?
Well, I think the last time I talked to you, it was we said it was a work in progress. I mean, anytime it's been a long drought here for the SUNYAC. So, 11 years since we last won. And I did not go back to see how many times we were in the finals and didn't get it done. But anytime that you can win your league, obviously it's a special accomplishment, and especially with a very young team that we had. Credit to them, credit to our upperclassmen for welcoming them into our hockey family and being role models along the way of what it means to be a Laker. And so obviously the accomplishments at the end, speak volumes for their dedication and for sticking with it throughout the course of the year. Trine was a very good team, but just we weren't pleased with ourselves. We know for whatever reason, um, you know, what we could control, we didn't do a great job in that game. And I'll say that not that they weren't deserving by any means, but just, we beat ourselves with critical mistakes. And they're a well-coached team. They play the right way. Credit to them, capitalizing on the mistakes that we did make.
Coach, when it comes to making the NCAA tournament, if you're not lucky enough to win your league title, right? There's the, you have to wait for that at-large bid, right? The women's team, the Oswego hockey women's team, they had an amazing season this year, but unfortunately they lost to Plattsburgh in the conference tournament and ended up missing out on getting an at-large bid, and because they were basically that 13th team. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the NPI compared to what the pairwise used to be, and even the old-fashioned way of kind of just when discussions were had on who would make the at-large. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, if goes in your favor, obviously you like it. In Coach Digby's case and the women's program, they had an unbelievable year, the best year in the history of the program. And Mark and his assistant Grace, they put a ton of time and effort into it. It starts with recruiting and then building a culture. And that's no discredit to Diane Dillon. She did an amazing job before Mark, and got the program restarted with the move to the campus center, moving into the campus center. But they had a great year. I didn't realize that with only three losses that a team like our women's team this year would ever be in jeopardy. But there's a lot of factors, strength of schedule, and there's a lot of good teams, men's and women's side. And we've said for years the only way you can control your destiny is to win your league. And unfortunately, Plattsburgh came in and won the game. And the numbers are the numbers. I guess it's a good thing because before, during, after where you stand. We knew our only way of getting in was to win. And then you had all the upsets. So I think some teams that thought they were in a pretty good position going into that last weekend, the upsets occurred and one after another on the men's side, which really a lot of good teams that were left out of the tournament. But, you're looking at, you know, Aurora and Trine and Utica that all lost. Just a lot of good teams and teams like Adrian and others that were left out of the tournament. Cortland in our own league. So I personally, as hard as it is, like for our women's team this year, I do think the MPI weighs everything. Which it's difficult from the standpoint of strength of schedule. Some years you have a schedule going into the season that based upon the previous year, you feel that you would get in, that your strength of schedule would be strong. But nowadays with the portal and changes and everything else that's going on, a team that maybe was very good last year loses its players or transfers or injuries occur and now their strength of schedule is down because of it, or it could work the other way too. So it's you control what you can control. The only surefire way again is to win your league, but I do think it far outweighs the politics of the smoke-filled room on a Sunday evening trying to figure out who the teams are that should be in besides the AQs. So, and it's only going to be tougher, as it goes on here. The parity in Division 3, as we talked about earlier in the year, is getting better and better, and there's going to be a lot of good teams that are left out.
It's a black and white decision at that point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So you started the season this year against three of the best teams in the country in Hobart, which won the title again for the third straight year. Then you faced Elmira, you faced Adrian. What did the team learn from playing in games against the caliber of those teams?
Well, it was in a hurry what it was going to take to be successful. Um, we knew it going into the season, as we discussed. It was, say it was on purpose, but the way that our league schedule fell and the way that our non-league schedule came together and the ability to play those teams, it helped us grow. It helped our players learn, the way in which we have to play to be successful. So even though we didn't have the results at the end on the scoreboard, they were great learning experiences. You had to play at a high level. We were competitive in each of the games. You know, the Elmira game, I thought we played extremely well, but we, had nothing to show for it at the end of the day. The Adrian game, we got off to a rough start and then rebounded and gained confidence from that game. And the Hobart game, it was, first game for a lot of our guys and just, the jitters, the butterflies, the deer in the headlight look. We would have loved the opportunity to play some of those teams again at the end of the year to see, how far we had come. Obviously, that didn't materialize, but no, that the growth by playing better teams, as we said, you want to be the best, you have to play the best, and obviously, Hobart is the gold standard right now in Division 3. You think back to Bill Beanie at Middlebury and some of the other programs that had strings of success. I know you guys appreciate it, but for the people that don't realize, it's a lot of fun to get to the top of the mountain, and it is a lot of work to try
Stay
to
there.
stay there. And kudos to the Hobart players and Mark Taylor and their staff and administration for doing a heck of a job recruiting and coaching, mentally, physically. to make that happen. That's no small feat.
It's a different time, but I remember when we were in school and you guys would play Hobart, same thing pretty much every year, but the caliber was so much different. They weren't this type of team back then, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's amazing how the times change. I mean, obviously new regimes, whatever, and things like that. But, I when we were there, never would have thought of Hobart as like a top tier,
Mhm.
college program.
Well, he's built it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
From the days of playing in, on top of the academics of Hobart, the cost of the school, arguably one of the worst rinks in Division III hockey, to bring that all together, with every, if you wanted to make them excuses, they refuse to do that. They embrace it. I would say similar to our days in Romney. Didn't matter what rink you played in, right? You had a certain culture and a certain way in which you were going to play, and an attitude that, quite frankly, the arena helps build and promote. And they've done a great job. It starts at the top, obviously, the support of administration, admissions, all of it. It doesn't happen without the vision of the people that control us with the support. Once you have the support, then it's up to the coaches to make it happen.
Romney was an advantage in my book, at least.
Yeah, no, one of the great barns, and we had the discussion. It's hard to see it go, but
Mhm.
to keep up in the arms race, it's not the be all end all for recruiting. Obviously, traditions, good leagues, the financial aid package, tuition, it all, is part of it. But um, it certainly helps to have a nice arena, makes every day a little more enjoyable, at least for our coaching staff to go out and for our players. Believe me, we don't take it for granted. We know we're very fortunate and blessed to have the facility that we do. And again, as we said, or I said, it starts at the top with Deborah Stanley's vision of building a new arena and a campus center on the middle of campus, and at a time when there was money available through state funding.
You mentioned Hobart's rink. What didn't that rink only have three walls? Wasn't there one wall that was just not there? It was completely open to the elements.
Yeah, the bleacher side, the fans, had a brave snowstorms, cold.
Jeez.
Since then, it's you can see through it, but it is enclosed. So at least the wind's not blowing through, and
Mhm.
it works for them, right? It's
Yeah.
not on campus. It's a community rink. They have to juggle their ice times and practices and whatever else to make it work, along with the women's team, Hobart William Smith. So, hey, they make it work. They don't use it as an excuse, and
Mhm.
more power to them.
I know before we started rolling, you mentioned, Coach, that you were working on next year's schedule. How is that coming together so far?
Yeah, no, it's complete. Some of
Okay.
the start times aren't finalized, but as far as the dates and the opponents, so no, it'd be as tough or tougher than this year's schedule with obviously Hobart twice now in our league and Skidmore twice. Our tournament with Elmira, Babson, and Williams
Mm.
will be as any good as any Division III tournament in the country next year. Utica College, Geneseo, Brockport, Nazareth. Sure, I'm forgetting here, but no,
Sounds tough already.
it'll be a tough schedule. Yeah.
I'm tired just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's exciting. We open our first exhibition game with a new program down the road at St. John Fisher. So
Oh,
it's
interesting.
exciting for D3 hockey, exciting for their college and their program. And I think it'll be a great way for them to start out, and their players and parents and fans, and I don't know how well they'll travel, but it's no, it's it's good for college hockey, and good for our area of New York to add another team.
Yeah,
Are they in a
definitely.
conference?
They'll be in with Naz and Utica,
Okay.
Geneseo, Brockport, and the UCHC. So no, they've got a great core of teams, right here, and then a few outcasts programs a little further away, but Manhattanville and Chatham, I believe. But no, it'll be a strong league.
Coach, after losing 13 players to graduation last year, this team is only losing one player to graduation, and that's senior Daniel Calabufo. How advantageous was it for this group of young players to experience a SUNYAC title and an NCAA tournament in their first year?
Well, anytime you can, have that success, as we say, it breeds success, and they understand what it takes. And you get into bonus hockey, and you get to practice those extra weeks, and you get to prepare, for not that every game's that meaningful, but you're preparing for a semifinal game, a championship game, an NCAA game, and all those experiences go into their database and are something that they can draw upon for the future. And I don't see this group as a group that would be complacent with their success. They're hungry. They got a taste of it. They want more. They're young. They understand they've got something special with the group, with the chemistry of the group. Yes, it helps to have the talent and ability to come together as a team, but they're an awesome group of young men that worked extremely hard throughout the course of the year to get the results that they did. And no, the future, holding them all together and keeping them all going in the right direction with their training this summer and with their attitudes and their work ethic and the sacrifice that it takes. We're excited about next season. So a tough schedule again, but that's okay. It'll only make us better in the long run.
This year, you in individual awards, as far as individual awards go, you had multiple players, take home awards. You had freshman Ryan Burke, who was a third team All American, and SUNYAC Rookie of the Year. Sophomore Travis Baker won the SUNYAC Defensive Player of the Year. Then Burke and Calabufo earned first team All Conference honors. Burke was also part of the All Rookie team with Brandon Cohen and Nico Paone. How special is this group of players? How special and how special can they be?
Well, I think, Nico unfortunately got hurt on the road up at Fredonia. He didn't get to finish the season with us. On the back end, Travis Baker obviously had a very successful season after having his season last year cut short in January with the cut Achilles tendon. Um, so, starting on the back end there, um, it's a different look for us. We're more mobile. We're smaller for sure. We're not going to overpower anybody with our size on the back end, but our skating ability and our mobility back there. We get back for pucks and try to move them quickly and get them involved in the offense. So both of those players certainly well deserving of the recognition that they received. And I should say, there are a lot of guys on the back end and with our forwards up front that, Matt McQuady led our team in scoring the majority of the year. And, he I don't say he's left off, just there's only so many good players that can get awards at the end of the year. Connor Gato, and there's a slew of guys that had outstanding years, positive for us. First year in a long time where we had a handful of guys that were point per game, which is always important. It wasn't, I don't want to say previous year with Shane Bull and Tyler Flack. So. Brendan Cohen, we knew it'd be a good player. Did we realize it'd be the goal scorer that he became? Pretty impressive numbers fighting through injuries, later part of the season. But, credit to him for his recognition. Um, Danny Calabufo, so happy for him. Everything came together for him this year. Very consistent 200-foot player, respected by our league coaches, obviously, not just by producing, on the scoreboard, but just as an assistant captain, being a role model for all these new players. So I couldn't think of a better guy, for them to see how he conducts himself in the classroom, off the ice, community service, weight room, on the ice, practice every day. It was a good thing. And then Ryan Burke, obviously, he in the history of our program will be the first freshman to ever receive any type of All-American honor. So quite a credit to him. We've had three two-time All-Americans, but he puts himself in a good situation. And nice part about all of them, but Ryan, as I was telling another person today, it's not just his skill set, his compete level, and his team first attitude. It's nowadays it's very refreshing to see. He wants to win. He's a competitor, and as much as he wants his own success, he doesn't put that in the way of the team. And that unselfish play, certainly our players appreciate, and we as a staff, you sometimes you overlook that part of it. But all in all, a great year for Ryan, and hey, next year again, we'll see how it goes for anyone. It's again, getting there is a lot of fun, trying to stay there and playing under pressure and putting high expectations on yourself individually. Some guys, for whatever reason, pucks stop to fall and you get in a little bit of a slump or whatever. But those guys that all received awards this year, I know it's a team first mentality. So they certainly want to have success because they know that helps the team. But we're excited about next year moving forward, and the recognition for those players this year is quite an honor for them. And I think that'll only serve as motivation for next year. Well, I should say Danny Calabufo, no, he's graduating. He'll be joining us on our staff as our Fred Festa graduate assistant next year.
Nice.
That's fantastic news.
Yeah,
Uh,
Danny's, well, his dad's a legend there in Camillus with West Genesee High School, and Danny's got it in his blood, and we're excited to have him help us and be part of all of it. So his youth and enthusiasm and energy and hockey IQ, along with obviously his personality, it'll only be a benefit to our program.
does he have coaching aspirations?
I haven't really gotten into that, but I would think so. I know he loves the game, and between his dad and his whole career path at West Genesee and Northwood Prep School and Maryland Black Bears, Holy Cross to Oswego, he's had his share of experiences and coaches to draw from,
Yeah.
and it's a good thing. You try to figure it out, but he'd make a heck of a coach. Hopefully, he does.
Coach, about midway through, I think, well, in early 25, you picked up career win number 400 at Canton. What did that milestone mean to you?
At the time, it was not, it was nice. I was happy for the players. I think they talked about it behind my back, along with,
Mhm.
our assistants, John Whitelaw, Mike Gray, Bobby Chattel, Kenny Neal. Um, you know, it was special from the standpoint, just a great group of guys, and how lucky you are to do something that you really enjoy. It wasn't really till later where you start answering emails and texts with all the people. It doesn't happen without very good players. Again, our administration allowing us to bring in good players, with our out of state package, with our international package, with our academic package, our presidential scholarship package. It gives you something to work with to try to bring in the best student athletes that you can. And then all the coaches, so good players, good coaches, all the coaches that have helped, our program to where it is, and then to Coach Unger and Coach Roll for, giving me the opportunity to be assistant. 7 years with George and 6 years with Donnie. So pretty special to have two great guys as mentors, and now all that comes together. It gets you to 400, which means either A, you've been doing it too long, um, or to get to 400, you're doing something right as a program, as we say, to try to be consistent,
Mhm.
and knock on wood. Since 2003, I've been blessed to have consistency, which we take a lot of pride in on why that happens and how that happens.
I know before we started the interview, we were talking. We had mentioned, we had spoken to Coach Roll earlier this year, and it turned out that you had played Utica. You were sitting on 398 when you were playing, and you played Utica. If you had beaten Utica that game, you would have gone and played Nazareth and had a chance to get 400 against Coach Roll. So we kind of brought that up to him, and he didn't even know that you were at that point yet. He was like, "Oh wow, really?" He's like, "That would be great." But not necessarily against me,
Yeah.
but but he was but obviously very happy for you. Um, and obviously, as you know, he was last season coaching at Nazareth this year and retired at the end of the year. What was it? What was the conversation like with him? After the game, knowing that this was the last time you guys would face each other.
Yeah, it was, I'm happy for him, but it was bittersweet for me. Obviously gave me the opportunity to be his assistant. And then really, if it wasn't for him all along, encouraging me to get my master's degree, to be in a position to have a chance to get the job. Um, I owe him an awful lot for that. So to see him go, I'm happy for him. It was the right time for him, and he deserves a lot of credit for starting the program at Nazareth, getting it to where it was, doing everything the right way, first class, getting the school to understand what it would take commitment wise. Credit to George, his years at Clarkson, they had some outstanding seasons and NCAA appearances, and I don't think people really appreciated it until, he was gone, and then you realize, well, those records and those seasons don't look so bad when you reflect back on it, of making the NCAA tournament, for a small school, private school in upstate New York. And that's no discredit to the coaches since George, but I don't think they've been there as many times total as they were during his years there. So it's a different climate now. It's a different whole game, and with the recruiting and NIL and portal and everything else. But JF Wool's done a remarkable job, and they were certainly worthy of getting in the tournament this year. But as many years with Casey Jones. But back on George, just happy for him, and good health to him, and a well-deserved retirement to enjoy, his time. It just, life has a way of hardening you, you guys understand, his wife Paula, and everything that he endured during coaching, which only makes it even harder. So
Mm.
it's not to feel bad or sorry or anything else. It's the reality of life taking the wind out of your sails more than once. So happy for him.
Well, he did mention that maybe you and he were going to start a fishing charter, maybe a fishing boat sometime in the near future.
I kept telling him that I don't fish, and I don't, but I said, you can do all that part of it. I'll drive the boat and hand out the cooler of beer to the people, and that'll be our fishing business. So maybe you two can be the first customers.
There you go.
Yeah.
So sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't really fish either, but I'm more than happy to come on the boat and drink a couple beers with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I'd hold up to it. He loves it, and he's got a cottage up on the St. Lawrence, and
Mm.
he was always into fishing, and that's his way of getting away from everything. So he enjoys golf too, but I know the fishing part of it, he's into it. And I don't do either one very well or often enough, so someday I'll start one of them.
Do you have a sport that you do pursue like off season besides hockey? Is there anything else out there?
No, I enjoy being on the lake. When people say, geez, you're always tanned. Well, the reality, any chance that I get to be outside, I'm going to be outside. I think back to you know, playing and then coaching when you have the winters of upstate New York, and then you add in that you're in an ice box from end of August
Yeah.
till end of March. You know, I know when my day comes and I'm done, I'm going from the ice box to an oven somewhere warm. So
You should tell them the tan is from windburn up in
yeah, I
Oswego.
enjoy being outside. Even now, even though it's cold out, if it's
Mhm.
sunny out, I'll be out, yard work, raking the yard or cleaning up around the pool or across the street at the lake. So no, I've been that way my whole life. I guess that would be my enjoyment. I Most people hate yard work, but I'll be out doing something or around the house. Not the greatest handyman, but I enjoy it, and that's kind of my mental break or my
Mhm.
chance to rethink things through while I'm trying to fix something. So no, but I'm sure I'll find something one of these days.
Got plenty of time.
Yeah.
So, Coach, what do you look forward to the most when preparing for next season?
Well, the exit meetings that we have with each player, approximately, an hour or longer, are
Mm.
always enjoyable for us to get their feedback and their thoughts on what they can do personally and what we can do as a team and what we need to do as coaches to be better, or, what areas of our culture need to improve. And, um, we take it serious. We wouldn't ask if we didn't want their feedback. And, a lot of it is it's not something they rush through. They put time and effort into it. And over the years, I have clearly made changes, and not just because some college kid tells you to, but when you listen to the rationale and why,
Mhm.
hey, it makes sense. And if it makes us a better team, we're open-minded. As we always say, lifelong learners. Somebody's got a better way or a more productive way, we're going to do it. So that's always enjoyable. And then the recruiting process, trying to find the right pieces to the puzzle to plug in where we feel we need help and what's going to make us better and what's going to put us in that elite group of teams that are consistently there year in and year out. And many times you feel you've done a good job recruiting, but for one reason or another, things don't work out or don't pan out. Other years, you think you got an okay year, and you've got players that really, you know, are better than what we thought they would be. And some players, you know, are ready early on. Some players it takes longer into the season till they get it, till they
Mm.
understand. So this time of year, though, enjoy watching a lot of playoff hockey in the NHL and watching the Division One games, the qualifiers, the championships, the NCAA tournament, picking up ideas and different ways in which teams play, and that's all enjoyable to watch, to try to learn and grow and take notes. And then summer, comes quick,
Yeah.
summer camps and USA camps, and before you know it, our players are back and we're getting ready for the season. But we'll enjoy this time of year and enjoy some time away to unwind, reflect, and get ready for next year. It's a work in progress all summer long, and staying in contact as far as making sure they've got their housing, their classes,
Mm.
everything's in order academically for them to return. So it goes quick. It
It
doesn't
does.
doesn't seem long. End of the season to start of the season, they have approximately 5 months to make themselves better. And the gains, in the weight room and off the ice, um, you can make up a lot of ground in 5 months if you're committed, willing to do the right things.
Coach, how much do you take? You mentioned watching, the NCAA Division One tournament or the NHL playoffs. How much of that do you watch and really like watch as a coach and try to pick things up versus just watching as a fan and just enjoying the games?
Great question. Yeah, no, I don't. Most people, they'll talk about one player, and obviously you'll have that stick out to you. But for me, I don't, I'm looking at more as a system based. You know, defenseman gets the puck. Is he looking to skate, make a pass? Where's the pass to? Is it outside the blue line? Is it in the zone? Where are the forwards? What are their routes? What are they doing? Neutral zone defense, forecheck, face-off plays, power play, penalty kill, line matchups. For me, that, I'm always looking from a technical, systematic standpoint more so than a player's individual skill set. I mean, guys make great plays. It's fun to watch and impressive, but for me, I would say I've always been more of a, what can we learn from them? Angling, body positioning, stick positioning, or, engaging in front of the net, how and why, and boxing out and fronting, and all of it, blocking shots, just all those details that you see out of better players and how they do things. And it's not, a lot of it is taught through their coaches that they've had, especially at the college level. You see a consistency on how a team blocks shots or how a team, builds a pile in a corner and, what their rules are with their team without being at their practices or talking with their coaches. So, especially, I don't say they're adapting their systems to play someone else. It's different. So to me, that's the fun and challenging and enjoyable part of seeing how other coaches do it. Doesn't mean it's going to work for us based upon your talent level and your skill set and your depth and goaltending and all the rest of it. But it's fun to watch.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, and congratulations on an outstanding season. And before you know it, we'll be previewing the next season. So we're looking forward to having you back on.
Well, thank you both. Have a great summer. We appreciate the coverage. And again, it only helps promote our program and college hockey and maybe give insight to some younger coaches that, there's not a right or a wrong way, but just different perspectives on your culture and how you prepare teams and scheduling and, all the rest of it. So a lot of great young coaches out there that,
Mhm.
will get a chance the same way that I was given one and keep our sport going in a positive direction.
And that was the head coach of the SUNY Oswego men's ice hockey team, Ed Gosek. And Jason, right, like we said toward the end, before you know it, we're going to be talking to him to preview the 25-26 season, which, as we mentioned off the top, very young team, only one
Yeah,
senior is graduating, so they're going to be returning. They had 17 freshmen this year's roster. Now, who knows with the transfer portal if any of them are going to go elsewhere, but there's a chance that they could return all 17 next year. They'll be sophomores, and they're really a talented core group of
yeah,
players that are going to be here for at least the following season, maybe even another one or two after that.
right. I mean, you take away, you add in really one more player, right? That's
Hmm.
all you're really adding in. You have your sophomores and your juniors, that were already on the team that still isn't that many comparatively, right? Because you have 17 freshmen, so
Yeah.
it's really not that many. Maybe like five, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's yeah, it's a very talented group that they have coming back, and like Coach said, barring anything crazy, injuries, whatever, and whatnot, the sky's the limit for this team. Like they've already
Right.
shown that they can contribute. The young guys can contribute and win. So as long as, they don't go into any slumps or anything like that, why can't they win the conference again? And why can't they get better and, put on a better showing in the NCAA tournament and win a game and,
Yeah.
keep going on from there. You never know.
And they're going to play Hobart twice
That's
in
crazy.
next season, twice.
Now that they're in the conference
And
with them and
conference,
Geneseo, we're playing Geneseo
Geneseo and
too,
Brockport, they're back. So basically, they're going to play three of the four teams that were in the Frozen Four this year.
I love when coaches do that. Like we've spoken to Coach Leone from the basketball team, and he always says, and Gosek says the same thing. They like to put tough schedules out on the.
Right.
They like to create tough schedules. Play the good teams because it's only going to aim it's either going to make you better or not, one of the two. But you're going to learn from it eventually, and you hope that it pushes your team forward and helps them grow. And that's the only way to do it. If you play cupcakes all the time, you have a great record, but your strength of schedule is going to stink. And if it comes down to it, you're not making the tournament because of your strength of schedule then. So,
Right. This is very true. You go back to those, when Oswego opened the season, the men's team against Hobart and Elmira and Adrian, they came away with 1 point. They had a scoreless tie against Elmira. They lost to Hobart. They lost to Adrian. And then they turned around and completely blew out Plattsburgh and Potsdam
mhm.
on the North Country road trip. So they clearly
Right.
learned a few things. They were immediately beat Plattsburgh 5-1. They were nationally ranked at the time. Plattsburgh was
Hmm.
beat them 5-1, then beat Potsdam 6-1. And then it was on from there. They had a successful, SUNYAC season going 9-4-1 and beat, Buff State, who gave them trouble all season long. They didn't win either game against Buff State during the year. And they managed to beat them handily in the SUNYAC semifinals.
Yeah. And Buff
Winning,
State's always given them trouble.
yeah,
Like since we were there, Buff State's given them trouble.
pretty much. They were
Fredonia,
always
Buff State.
they were that trap game. Like
Yeah.
if Oswego wasn't, if they didn't bring their A game, they were going to get beat.
Right. And when we were
Uh,
there, Fredonia was a decent team. They weren't great,
yeah.
but they weren't bad. And Buff State, you'd always have that game where they'd play Fredonia, and they generally
Mhm.
didn't. They generally would go back and forth and win, lose with Fredonia. But Buff State was that game that would like that, like you said, it was that trap game. Like that they were either looking ahead to Fredonia the night after, and like next thing you know, they lose the game because they were so like taken they because Buff State was never that great, right? So they were just
Right.
kind of like taking it easy and be like, cakewalk game, and you get stunned. So
It's interesting that Oswego played Plattsburgh three times last season and beat them. They swept, which is
mhm.
rare,
Right. Very
and they
rare.
won by a combined score of 15-6.
Wow. How times have
So
changed.
how times have changed. That almost never happens. But
No.
they did a great job against Plattsburgh throughout the season. It was so great to finally, it felt like a moment of redemption because there have been many years recently where they have faced Plattsburgh in the SUNYAC playoffs that have come up short. So to be
Recently, it's
able
just
to,
like forever, man.
yeah, to be able to just race out to a 5-0 lead after one, it was just
Yeah.
amazing. It was fantastic.
That I can't even I
Uh,
feel like just you were there, right? So that
yes,
was like just being there must have been,
it's amazing.
feeling so great. Now you're like knowing who they're playing and knowing the past, you're like
Mhm.
sitting on your hands, being like biting your fingernails, like,
Yes.
please don't blow this lead. Please don't blow this lead.
It's like watching the Mets play the Braves. It's like, come
Right.
on, please don't.
It's 5-1, then it's
Yeah.
5-2, and then it's 5-3. Like, oh God, how
No,
much time is left on the clock?
seriously. I think that'll do it for this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. I want to thank Coach Ed Gosek for joining us. And throwingbagels.com is our website. Throwingbagelspodcast@gmail.com is our email address.
True.
It's very true. And you can follow us on all our social medias and YouTube as well. And I did put the minute where Oswego beat Plattsburgh to clinch the SUNYAC championship, and I was there and I recorded it. All the players running out onto the ice, so that's on our YouTube channel. If you want to go ahead and check that out and relive that moment, because I know I will all summer long. So that's on our YouTube channel. A whole bunch of good stuff there. So enjoy, and we'll see you again very soon. Right, Jason?
We will.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.